Hi, welcome to the Catholic Corner. I'm Monsignor Walter Nolan. My guest today is a beautiful, inspirational Catholic fiction writer. She was born in Jersey City, raised in Woodbridge, and now lives in Jackson, all in New Jersey. Karen Kelly Boyce is a retired nurse, a mother, a wife, a grandma, and a farmer. She started writing books a little later in life at the age of 52. Kelly and her husband, Mike, are parishioners at St. Monica's Church in Jackson. Kelly's written many books, all related in some way to her Catholic faith. Her first 3 novels received the seal of approval from the Catholic Writers Guild. The novel, Downright Good, also received the 2012 Eric Hoffer Award for Commercial Fiction and was the finalist for the Montaigne Medal. She also writes a children's series called Sisters of the Last Straw, and we'll be talking quite a bit about the Sisters of the Last Straw. It was the birth of her grandchildren that inspired Kelly to write this faith-based series. Kelly, thanks for being with us at the Catholic Corner.
Thank you.
You know, when I talk to someone who has written fiction or likes to write, especially Catholic fiction, I always like to find out, how do you get involved in that? What's the events that lead up to that? What is the kind of the background that all of a sudden you said, gee, I can start writing my thoughts?
It was a funny situation because I retired from nursing because I got Lyme's disease.
Oh my gosh.
And I started reading Catholic magazines, and I saw a little ad there that said they were looking for people to write about obscure women Catholic saints. So I thought, oh. So on a lark, I wrote a story, and it was published, and nobody was more surprised than I was. But that got me into the writing field.
Who was the saint? Which saint did you write about?
It was Mary Ann, who worked with the leper, Father Damien, in the Hawaiian Islands.
Okay.
So I wrote about her, and that got published, and then they asked me if I would continue to write about women saints. So that's how I started. And then it just progressed from there.
That's almost God's grace and God's blessing that gives you that inspiration. That's marvelous. Tell me about the novel Downright Good. I love the title, Downright Good.
Yeah, Downright Good is my 3rd novel. All my novels are based on the graces of the Rosary because I'm very devoted to the Rosary. So Downright Good, being the 3rd, was based on the birth of Christ, and thinking that Christ came in such a unexpected way and brought the good news. This became a story about a little girl with Down syndrome who, while she delivered the local paper, brought everybody closer to Christ with her little sayings and her little observations. And I never knew what the inspiration was, and sometimes that happens when you write. But after I wrote it, I remembered that growing up, I had a little boy that lived around the block from me, a Down syndrome child. And in those days, they used to hide those children. They were ashamed of them. So he was behind a stockade fence, and I would sit outside the stockade fence and talk to him until his grandmother would chase me away. And I think he inspired, because in this book, the little girl with Down syndrome rides all over the town. I kind of set him free. So I realized that later on.
Do you know where that little boy is today?
No, I don't, unfortunately. That whole neighborhood, because of Sandy, has been bought up by the government, and everything is gone now. So the neighborhood I grew up has disappeared.
It'd be interesting to see if he was, around, and
I would love
to, share the fact that he inspired you, or there was something there.
Yeah, it would be great.
But that's a story in itself. Just a little girl and a little boy, having conversations with each other, and how you can communicate, and even at times with people that we think we can't communicate with.
Right.
Love's a great communicator.
It is.
It's amazing. So are all the characters in your book based on real people?
Some of them are, but most of them are maybe imaginary or parts of people I knew combined. So you never know with the imagination what's going to take. But I always create the characters before I create the story, because it's a kind of people kind of orientated.
I should talk to you some more because somewhat soon I'm going to take a pilgrimage with some people to Ireland.
Oh.
And the homilies I would give will have some kind of stories to them.
Oh.
And I was thinking about Brendan the Navigator, you know, but I can't have him go to the cross because he was way after Jesus.
Right.
So in my mind, I'm saying, gee, maybe it's great-great-great-great-grandfather.
Right,
So,
right.
But it's interesting how your mind can touch things. Tell me about the children's series that we talked about, and the Sisters of the Last Straw.
The Sisters,
How did that become a
they-
series?
how that came about is I have a group of women that I do Bible study with for over 30 years now.
Oh my gosh, Kelly, that's beautiful.
And one day we were sitting talking about how we should have been sisters. And then we started to laugh because we all have such terrible habits.
Sisters of each other or religious
No,
sisters?
it's religious
Oh, okay.
sisters. And we started to laugh about the poor quality sisters we would be. And one of the girls said, oh yeah, we would have to be called the Sisters of the Last Straw. And that just triggered something.
That's great.
And I started writing, and each character is kind of based on one of the women in the Bible study, very loosely, but you know, how you could love people with bad habits. It doesn't matter. When you love somebody, you can look past whatever problems they have. So I created each character to reflect one of us, and including myself and my bad habits. I'm one of the sisters too.
So the last straw, what does that really mean?
Well, in the story, as it starts, they had been asked to leave numerous religious formations because of their bad, characteristics. So they decided to start their own, and they were going to call it after a saint. But when the bishop saw their history, he said, "No, you're Sisters of the Last Straw." So they started their own order, and the whole series is about learning to tolerate other people. And I like to make children laugh. I think you teach the faith best by making children laugh. So it's a very funny series, and they solve little mysteries and all. I loved Nancy Drew growing up, so I kind of thought of that as
I guess a lot of young
Yeah.
ladies grew up with Nancy Drew.
Yes. So that was in the back of my mind to make it a series of little mysteries for children.
Now, do your friends know that they're one of the characters
They
based on
do,
them?
but the funny part is they've all picked the wrong person because I guess nobody wants to see their own faults. They can't figure out which ones they are. So, and to me, it's
so-
very obvious.
It's so easy to say, that's not me.
Yeah,
That's
but they have a
so-and-so."
great sense of humor about it, and they feel like they're part of it now.
Terrific.
So,
Kelly, I'd like to read a description of the first book in your series, Sisters of the Last Straw and the Case of the Haunted Chapel. You already got me intrigued here. The Sisters of the Last Straw and the Case of the Haunted Chapel is the first in a series of children's books that convey the fun-filled story of a group of misfit nuns. These sisters and their madcap adventures teach the importance of tolerance and forgiveness. Each book focuses on the virtue of gospel living and the frailties of our human nature. While children delight in the humor and fast-paced exploits of this special group of nuns, they learn the need to be forgiving of the faults of others and to look for the good in all people. Children are enchanted and entertained with the humorous escapades of the characters while learning the importance of basic Christian values, growth, and love. Well, that's beautiful. Can you share one or two of your favorite excerpts of the series?
well, I think one of the most humorous nuns we call Sister Crumbles, and she's called Sister Crumbles because she's very clumsy, and she loves animals. She keeps bringing animals to the convent, and they have goats in the back and chickens and roosters. And her exploits when the animals get loose or she's trying to catch them, they had run into the neighbor's yard and was eating all his produce and all, and they had to chase them through the woods, falling through the mud, and the children just laugh when they hear that section. because it's so much fun.
Fun, but also probably reminds them of things that animals they brought in, or their own dogs or cats or goats or whatever they have.
Yes.
You know, when you tell that story, when I was a pastor at St. Paul's in Princeton, at Christmas time, we used to always have animals, live animals in a scene. Well, the first time I had, I come out of midnight mass on Christmas Eve about 2 in the morning, and my dog is running over, at the compound and I stood there and I said, I think these goats are on this side of the fence. And they were.
Yes.
And all I kept thinking about was, oh my God, they're going to go run down Nassau Street
Right.
at 2 in the morning on
Right.
Christmas Eve. But that's the fun part of the stories that are probably real for you and your farm,
Right.
and you
Right.
make a beautiful story out of it. How about sharing another one? Can you think of another one that might be entertaining?
Well, in the book that's coming out this year, this is a true story. We had taken 2 roosters home, and I named them Tom and Toby. And
Toby.
and they would follow me around as I was feeding the other animals, and they were very affectionate. They just wanted to be petted all the time. So I decided, let me free range them. They can eat the ticks and all the bugs that are on a farm. The only problem is they learned to cross the street. And when they heard the children in the park across the street, they went into the park and started chasing all the kids because they wanted to be petted, and the kids were terrified. They were climbing up the swings, they were climbing up the parents called the police came down, and finally they called animal control, and he knew just where they were from, and he brought them home, and I had to unfortunately pen them up after that because they just wanted to go into the park and see the children all the time. So I put that story in one of the books. It's quite funny. Yeah.
It is true. I mean, they have their own personalities. I mean, we think animals don't have affection, whether it's instincts or they
Right.
like to be around other,
Yeah.
How about your grandchildren? I know you have 2 grandchildren, I think.
I have 2,
And
yes.
do they give you some inspiration for stories, or do they ever say, Grandma, this is the best story, or
Yeah,
this is the one I like?
They're young yet, so most of my fans that read these books are 10 to 12, and my grandchildren are 4 and 7, so they're the kind of stories that you read to them. And they do like that because they know all the animals. A lot of the animals that I have are in the book. And some of the fans have actually come to the farm to meet the animals. They write me letters, and I've had, they're just astonished that there's really a goat named Crayons and there's really a horse named Backwards, They just, and they have so much fun. In fact, I have a couple coming out next weekend to see some of the animals. So it's a lot of fun with the children. And the grandchildren just left yesterday from the farm.
It's got to keep your heart very, very young.
It does.
Has anyone, the children ever called you up or maybe wrote to you and said that they named maybe their animal after one of your characters, or give you an idea for a character?
I haven't heard that, but I know a lot of them are asking their parents for goats, for pets, which is impossible if you live in a regular house. But they haven't named any that I know of, but I do get a lot of letters from children, and I enjoy them so much.
You said that you named one of the roosters Toby.
Yeah.
I had a dog that I named Toby.
Oh, okay.
And one day the bishop said to me, why'd you name the dog Toby? And I told him that in the book of Tobit, the whole story is about Tobias going on a journey,
yes.
and it said the dog followed.
Oh,
and then on
okay.
his way back, it said he's coming back home with his wife and et cetera, and the dog followed.
Oh, okay.
So I
That's it. I never read that story.
That's a great story.
Yeah.
You'll probably write 5 more books out of that story.
Yeah.
But that's I think that's the connections that we have, and children especially. They love. I think they love to be endeared with their animals and
Right.
their pets, and to realize that it's a wonderful gift to. I just always thought that. You're never alone when there's an animal
No.
close by, and
No.
you can really almost tell a person's character. I think how they relate to animals
That's
and different
true.
things.
That's true.
Now, what do some people say about your books? Are you like? Do you have when they put the books in magazines or something? The critics ever say anything about it?
Yes, I've had some nice reviews of the books, and on Amazon I've had some wonderful reviews.
yes.
And the best ones, like I said, are the children that write. They write little reviews on Amazon, And I just love them because they really get to the point what sister they love, what animal they love, and what they learned from it, and they can't wait for the next, book to come out. So that brings me a lot of joy.
Now, do the children who would write something like that, they just do it on their own, or they
Yeah, some
people
of
ask them to write something?
they do it on their own.
And send it into
And
Amazon.
then send it into Amazon. And usually it's just a little simple couple of sentences because they're younger children. But it's such a thrill because it's heartfelt, and it's not asked
You
for.
could collect all those and make another book.
Maybe
I
someday.
mean, I've seen that. In fact, I've used some of those in homilies.
Oh, okay.
Where you get like little quotes from children or little stories that children
Yeah.
talk about, and
Yeah.
that would be a marvelous.
It is fun because they
either-
pick out things that they like and they're very specific,
Yeah.
They like the way Sister, Mother Mercy screamed or the way, they all ran out of the chapel, whatever,
Now, are these
inspires
all
them.
the sisters? Are they from a religious order?
They're just a made-up religious order. I was taught by the Sisters of Mercy, so
And the whereabouts did they teach?
I went to St. James School in Woodbridge.
In Woodbridge.
Yes, and the Sisters of Mercy taught me. God bless them, they had so many children in the class at the time, when I was growing up.
have
I
to-
don't know how they did.
We all think back, and
Yeah.
yet we were all behaved.
Yeah, well
know,
behaved. And they were, so kind to me. And the best part of it is they taught me so much theology. I didn't realize it at the time. But I know, from them, because religion was our first class and writing was our second, English. So that's where I tend to get it from, I think. They just taught us everything.
And we had to write. Back.
Yes.
I guess the children today too
Yeah.
still write and different things. But so it was the Sisters of Mercy.
Yes, yes. And they were very good to me.
That are any of your characters after some of the sisters?
No, but I think if I have to pick a character that was like that, it would be that we have one character, Sister Lovely. They didn't have her bad habit. She's trying to quit smoking. But she's kind-hearted, and she always comes through with kindness in the book. And that's what I remember from the nuns that I had that taught me.
Well, I know sometimes you talk to people, Kelly, and they say something about the sisters were tough. Or, I went to grammar school and I went to an all-boys high school, St. Peter's in Jersey City. But I just have great memories.
I do too.
And I remember even some of the sisters. If you got out of line, I mean, they made you, disciplined.
Right.
But there was so much love there and so
There
much
was.
fun there.
Yeah.
And I still can remember some of the sisters, especially in grammar school. I guess in high school with the priests, you kind of expected them to be out on the fields
Right.
with you and whatever. But I still remember some of the sisters, doing things in their because then they had their big hats on,
Right,
their
right,
habits
they had
running.
their habits.
And it was just I think they made life interesting and
They
fun,
did.
and they certainly cared about you.
Yes, they
They
did.
certainly
yeah.
cared about you. So have you given copies to the Sisters of Mercy, or have you gone up to the Mother House and talked to them?
No, I haven't. That's a thought that I might
Oh,
do
you'll
that.
have to, Kelly,
yeah.
honestly, because I know a lot of the Sisters of Mercy.
Oh, okay.
Oh, they would absolutely be thrilled to have
great.
you.
Yeah, I would love to do that. Maybe I'll give that some thought.
Are any of the ones that taught you still with you, or
I
up
think-
at the Mother House, maybe retired, or?
Sister Janine, unfortunately, she passed away. She was one of my favorites.
Uh-huh.
But I think Sister Judith is still around. I'd have to look her up
Oh, yeah,
because they're retired
I
now.
would, sure. I knowing them, they would love to have you up there, and if you brought a couple of your books up, they'd probably be laughing with
Oh,
you.
great.
You probably get another 10 books out of out of their comments or
Yeah,
whatever.
they could probably
you know?
teach me a lot.
Have you thanked the Sisters of Mercy at all? Have you written to them at all or anything?
No, I haven't. I haven't really thought about it because, like I said, I'm older now. I don't know how many of the sisters who taught me
Yeah.
are still around. But I should thank them as an order because of what they
would,
did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think they'd be very thrilled.
Yeah.
You know?
Well,
And
do
even
that.
Georgian Court University. That's the Sister of Mercies.
Oh, is it? Yeah.
And there's still many of the grammar schools, but I'm like Notre Dame High School, where I was also as a priest at one time. I don't know if there are any active sisters, or even some of the grammar schools where I was pastor at St. Paul's, and there were Sisters of Mercy there.
Right.
And I think some of them would be thrilled to realize that your humor and your grace and the gospel values that they taught you are really being put to great use.
That's a good thought.
What? How many books are in the series?
Right now, I'm writing the 6th book.
6th book.
2 more books are being published this year,
Okay.
and that's they're for the holidays. I have the Mystery of the Thanksgiving Flowers and the Christmas Tree Capers. So they're coming out this year, and I'm working on a new book, The Easter Egg Escapades. So,
Wow.
they're a lot of fun to write.
What's the Christmas tree going to be about?
The Christmas tree is about the nuns decide they're going to raise money and they start a Christmas tree lot. But the trees are disappearing. Somebody's stealing the trees and they have to figure out where they're going and how to run a Christmas tree lot. And it's a lot of fun because Sister Crumbles gets a horse named Backwards to do the sled rides, and you have to say whoa when you want them to go, and just the opposite. And everybody interferes and mayhem ensues with the horse. But they discover that, who the thieves are. I don't want to give it away.
No, I'm gonna. Don't give it away. Don't give it away. But I'm gonna get that copy. And I'm saying to myself, that's a good Christmas homily. I got in there somewhere.
And in there, I teach what Christmas is really about.
That's the value of it all. What are your hopes for the series?
I'd like to continue the series. I'd like to, as long as I'm around to write, continue the series because it's growing in popularity. And I think kids get a lot out of it, learn, their faith through it in a fun kind of way. I think faith should be joyful. I don't like sourpuss faith. So.
I applaud that, Kelly. I applaud that immensely. Your career as a writer, has it kind of increased your own closeness to God and your own your own blessedness in a way?
It has, because as I write, I think God inspires me, and I learned myself. Sometimes I write something and I go, "Whoa, how come I'm not doing that? How come I'm not more forgiving?" And so you learn from your own writing that maybe you should forgive that, brother, or you should, call your mother.
You say call your mother. You just reminded me. At one time, my mother said to me when we were talking, God love her, mothers all go right to heaven. And Mom and I were talking about something, and I said something, and she said, son, maybe you should listen to your own homilies.
Exactly. That's exactly the same with writing.
Yeah, really. It's okay, Mom. I'll pay attention. Tell me a little bit about. I think you have a blog from your website.
Yeah, I have a blog, Karen Kelly Boyce, and on that blog I write a series on the Rosary, how to pray contemplatively with the Rosary. I also do book reviews for other Catholic writers because there's been a big explosion of Catholic writing, and I like to support other writers and get their books reviewed and out there. And I write a column for the Catholic Writers Guild blog that teaches you how to stay a spiritual writer. Because even as a writer, there are some really bad temptations. I once got offered a contract for a book, but they wanted me to take everything about Mary out because they were a Christian outfit, born again.
No kidding.
And it was, they offered a lot of money, and I had to say no, though, because you have to stay true to your faith, And I never regretted it. But that's the struggles writers have.
Yeah, sure. I think that's the struggle everybody has.
Right.
But it's good. You read a story about that too, in a way, because I think it's good for people to realize that no matter what their career is, profession is, moms, dads, doing this, doing that, there's always these little temptations of, whether it's make a little more money here or do this here, and yet, the happiness, at least that I found in all my life, is when the heart's one with God.
Right.
Everything else falls in place.
Right.
You know.
Exactly.
And you do some workshops, I understand.
Yes, well, I was always afraid of public speaking. That's my biggest fear, but God's helping me get over it. And I did workshops for children and adults. The children, I want them to learn to use their imagination, and so it's called Villains and Heroes, and they create their own characters for their
So the
work.
workshops for children, for youngsters.
It's for youngsters like 10, 11, that age.
Good.
And we use book stories they know and let them go from them stories to create their stories. And it's just fascinating the things they come up with.
I'm going to give you an idea.
Okay,
Homilies from the pew for children.
that is great. That's a great idea. See, this is me. I have so many ideas.
You know, no, seriously,
Yeah,
because
that is a
there's
great
probably
idea.
a lot of times, when we, priests or whomever are dealing with children, and you like to be able to maybe get a story that
Right.
takes the gospel value, or one of the letters of Paul, or one of the Psalm prayers. I mean,
That's a
there's
wonderful
so
idea.
much to do.
Yeah.
And you've got a heart for children or even animals and things.
Mm-hmm.
To be able to wrap it around and say, this is not a nice little story, could be used in
Yeah.
in the guidance for.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. So anyway.
Yeah, thank you.
There you go. There you go. What do you do in your spare time, you and your husband?
Well, my husband and he's retired. My husband was a New York City sandhog, so he worked in a very dangerous job down in the tunnels. And he didn't get to see much light, so we like to travel around the country and camp when we're not farming, and just visit the grandchildren and stuff. We have a lot of fun. So we like to go out west and see things, and so that's what we've been doing since he retired.
You're certainly an inspiration, and you can see that there's a delight of God's Spirit, in your heart and the things you do and your smile. I guess I'll call you Karen Kelly. I don't know which you like to go by.
Karen is my first name.
First name. So listen, keep writing your books and keep the
Yes.
Spirit of God and the love that you have, and you'll always be full of His peace.
Thank
If you'd like to share, or learn a little bit more about or read some of Karen Kelly's books, at www.KarenKellyBoyce, Boyce it is, .com, and you'll get lots and lots of smiles and lots of love. But we like your smiles and your love, so let us always be part of God's beautiful family.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.